Hello everybody and welcome to Tosso Show. This is another entry into our PlayStation Now in memoriam, or PlayStation Now. What is the other word that I used before? Oh my goodness. But anyway, we are doing this because PlayStation Now is pretty soon leaving on June 13. I did that video on May 30th, 2022. And I just wanted to talk about every single game that there is on PlayStation Now right now, so we can compare when PlayStation Plus Premium will take its place. Anyway, it's our little PlayStation Now. I have a word in my head, but I cannot say it. It's very funny. But we stopped after the D, so let's go through the E now. Alright, let's start with the first E, which is Earth Defense Force 2025. I never played it. I think that it's not a fighting game, but kind of like an action game. Next, Earth Defense Force 4.1, The Shadow of New Despair, which I assume is very similar, but it's PlayStation 8, so I assume that it's a fun game to play. I never played it. Earth Defense Force Insect Armageddon. Insect Armageddon, another one of that franchise. It led The Return of Matt Hazard. No clue about what that is, but probably once again an action game. It's funny that D3 Publisher has lots of games similar to that. Interesting. Hit Them, a Sony interactive entertainment game. It seems that we build a creature and then we have to cause as damage as possible on a CD. Okay. Never played it. Echochrome. So the good news is that Echochrome is part of the PlayStation Plus Premium offer. It's gonna be there, and I know that I think it was there on the ones that came out in Asia market, so we should be fine having it. But Echochrome is kind of like more puzzle game as far as I'm aware. I really want to play it, but I never had the opportunity yet to do so. Next is Electronic Superjoy. No clue about what it is, but apparently it's a platformer that probably depend on music, similar to Runner 2 or all those kind of other games that came out recently about it. Can be interesting to play, I guess. Alright, next is Elefunk. No clue about what it is, but it's a puzzle game too. And it's also done by Sony Interactive Entertainment, so maybe it's gonna be there. Who knows? Enemy Front, which is probably a FPS game. Or it looks like that. I don't know. I never played it. After Enemy Front, we have Enigmatis, the Ghost of Maple Creek. I assume this one was kind of, those adventure games that look more like you're in one room and you have to do something and then you go to the next, kind of like page by page. Enslaved, Odyssey to the West. I always heard good stuff about that game. I need to play it one of these days. I don't know if it's still there on PlayStation Plus, but it used to be on PlayStation Now. Alright, next, Entwined, which also is done by Sony Interactive Entertainment. It seems like a cool game, actually. I assume that it's more like I don't know. It's an artsy game, so who knows? It's probably an action game more than anything else, or an adventure game. Escape Dead Island, which this time is kind of like an adventure game. I'm actually curious playing this one because the style seems to be interesting. Anyway. Escape Plan. Never played this game either, but it seems that it's a survival humor game. Interesting. From the PS Vita, so my hope is that it's gonna be back. Eternal Sonata. Okay, I have that game on PlayStation 3. It's a PlayStation 3 game. So far, I did not see it being mentioned, which worries me. But Eternal Sonata looks like an amazing game. It was done by Tri-Ace with Bandai Namco. And obviously, when something is done by Tri-Ace, you know that it's more like an action RPG. Well, it's an RPG, but with some action within the fight. Kind of like Star Ocean and stuff like that. And the Tales of franchise. I know that this one has a very special style, and I really want to play it one of these days. I did play it on PlayStation 3 briefly, maybe an hour or two, but I never did a game preview. All right, let's go to the next one. Ethan Meteor's Hunter. I assume it's kind of like a puzzle game and a platform. Never played it. Euphoria. Okay, that's an ambient game of space exploration. Never played it. It's maybe interesting, who knows? I'll have to check. Everybody's Gone to the Rapture. So this one is interesting. It was done by the people who did Diester and all that. I really, really want to play it and see how it looks like. Because it's more like exploring things than anything else, right? Alright. Hopefully they still have it, because Sony Interactive Entertainment are publishing it, you know. Everyday shooter. Once again, a Sony Interactive Entertainment publisher. It's probably a shooter then. Alright, next, Extreme Exorcism. I don't know what it is about. Probably a puzzle game. And that's it for E, so let's go to the F now. And it starts with Fear, F-E-A-R, Fear. Apparently this one is available on PlayStation Plus in the Asia market, so my assumption is that we're gonna have it too. This one is very interesting. It's a very weird game. It was done actually by Sierra, one of the latest games that Sierra ever did, unfortunately. But who knows, now that Activision is bought by Microsoft and once all those things are done, I'm really curious to see if they're gonna try to revive all the Sierra related properties. I wish so. I really, 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 really wish so. Anyway, that's a FPS survival horror that is creepy, to say the least, but interesting too. I liked it. Okay, F1 2020 is the next game here. It's Formula 1, so it's racing. Fairy Legends of Avalon. No clue about what it is. It seems to be a role-playing game. Fairy Fencer F, Advanced Dark Force. I need to play that game eventually one of these days. It's an RPG. There's two versions of it. There's the original Fairy Fencer F and then the Advanced Dark Force that is available here. Next is Fallout 4, a Bethesda game. So yes, it's just the original Fallout 4. I don't think it has the DLCs and all that. It's an interesting game. I did do a game preview of this one a long time ago. It's one of my first game previews that I did that is a PlayStation Now game, actually. I'll have to check that back. I have to redo it eventually. I'm probably on Xbox Game Pass instead because I want to make sure that I do it justice by using Microsoft, because Bethesda is owned by Microsoft now. Fallout 76, that's the games that got weird reviews because apparently it's great, not great, but there's a lot of microtransaction, I think. Whatever. I never played it. Fallout 3. One of the first ones that is actually more like a action RPG. Yeah, we can say action RPG, really. More an action RPG than an FPS, to be fairly honest. Action RPG with an open world feeling. Because Fallout 1 and 2 are actually more tactical game. And Fallout New Vegas, which is the one that really, really make Fallout what it is nowadays. Or at least that's one of the most favorite one in the franchise as far as I'm aware, but I never played it. One day, I'm gonna do all the Fallout one after another, because guess what? I have them all, but I never played them. Alright, Fantavision. I thought that Fantavision was another game. I do have that on PlayStation 2. It seems that it's supposed to be back on PlayStation Plus Premium. I don't remember if it was in the Asia market, but I do know that it was within the games that they announced, so it should be there. I'm not a fan of Fantavision, it's too weird, and I swear the European version was very different than the American version, because when I played this, I felt completely lost. So I'll have to double check that. I'm curious about it. One day maybe I'll bring back my PlayStation 2 from the grave and, and make sure I can play it with my PAL version. Oh, right, Farming Simulator. I never played any of the Farming Simulator, but oh boy, there's many of them. I guess that's one of the original ones because it doesn't have a year number. Then you have Farming Simulator 19 here. Next, we have Final Exam. No clue about what it is, but apparently it's an action side-scroller 2.5D. Final Fantasy VIII Remastered. Alright, this one I did do a game preview of it because I wanted to do previews of every single Final Fantasy. And I started mostly with the ones that are on PlayStation Now because the good news is that this one will be back on PlayStation Plus and it's amazing and I hope they're going to continue to do that. Final Fantasy VIII Remastered is interesting because it's a remastered of maybe one of my least favorite Final Fantasy. But, you know, it's not a bad game. It's not a bad game. Anyway. Final Fantasy X-10-2 HD Remastered. This one will be back on PlayStation Plus as well. And it takes the PlayStation version 4 of the game, which is better than the PlayStation 3 version because apparently there's differences between the two, if you didn't know that. It contains the two games, 10-10-2. It contains also some of the extras that never came out in Europe and in the United States, as far as I'm aware. And that Final Fantasy X, it's a great game. I will do a game preview eventually. Then next is Final Fantasy XII, The Zodiac Age, which is another Final Fantasy entry that I'm gonna do. That's the Zodiac Age version, the international version that came out in Japan only at the time on PS2. That's the PS4 version. I really have to try it. I never finished that game. Compared to any other Final Fantasy, I didn't finish this one. One of the few I didn't finish. And I can tell you why, but maybe I will keep that for my game preview. Alright. Let's go next to Final Fantasy IX. Yes, Final Fantasy IX. Amazing game. And it's gonna be back on PlayStation Plus Premium, so no problem with this one either. And this one, the great news is that I did do a game preview that I didn't launch yet, but it's there. It's gonna be there. Final Fantasy VII, which is the PlayStation 4 non-remake, the original Final Fantasy VII. There's a little bit of difference with this version than the Steam version, than the original version, with some little things that they changed, but it's very minimal. I still need to try out that special movie that I talked about on the game preview when I did the game preview. I need to figure out what it is. Alright, next is Final Fight Double Impact. So Final Fight Double Impact, it's part of the Final Fight franchise from Capcom. It's a beat them all. Beat them up or beat them all? I keep mixing up shoot them up and beat them all. I think it's beat them all. But anyway, this version apparently is an HD version. I really need to try it, similar to how I did the Street of Rage 5. Was that Street of Rage 5 or Street of Rage 4? Oh my goodness, I don't remember. Anyway, I never played it. Alright, Firefighters, the simulation. There's a simulation of everything nowadays. But it would be interesting actually, this one, because, well, you know, the reality is that every simulation is interesting in my opinion. But it's just, I don't know if it's the kind of games that I want to play. I may play for 1 hour or two and then just leave it be, right? Anyway. Flow, it's a great game. I really love it. I really love the quiet and yet scary, eerie feelings that you have when you play it. Why it's scary and eerie? It's because you every time play with a different kind of fish, or if it looks like organism, let's say organism, aquatic organism, and they all have their pros and cons, and you have to be very careful about every single action that you do in order to go to the last level. It's not a difficult game, but there is some simulation that you have to think about here. It's a little bit puzzle game, but it's very nice. It's a very nice game to play. I didn't do a game preview of this game, but I should. Flower, same thing. Flower is a great game, very similar to Flow, done by the same people. I'm a bit surprised about how the 6-axis play with it, and I'm actually very curious about what they did with the Epic version of the game. There's no 6-axis, as far as I'm aware, with the Xbox controller, for example, so I don't know how you play it. Anywho, I played it, I never finished it, but I was very close to finish it. And it's a great game, I really recommend it. Fluster Clock. Alright, it seems to be like a hard game from what they say at the beginning. I don't know what it is, maybe a racing game. Or fighting, racing. Anyway. For Honor is the next one here. I never played it. It's kind of like everywhere at that point. So I can probably play it even if it's not anymore on PlayStation Plus. When it becomes PlayStation Plus. Forestry 2017, the simulation. Another simulator. What can I say? I don't know much about those. I never played them. Friday the 13th, the game. This one I want to trade, but I'm worried that I'm gonna be scared. But I don't know, it's kind of like Alien Isolation when I think about it, because Freddy will come beat you up if you're not careful enough. It's like a sandbox kind of game, because you can see that every time that you play, it will be different. Or at least as far as I understood it. Alright, next is Frogger Returns. Same thing, I never played it, but I know Frogger, and I played the very old version of Frogger on PlayStation, for example. It will be interesting to see like if they keep it or not, because Frogger is kind of like a classic. But it's Konami, so I don't know what Konami is gonna do. After all, they removed all the Metal Gear Solid from PlayStation now, so... Alright, next is Frostpunk Console Edition. Frostpunk is nearly everywhere. I don't know what kind of game it is, but I know that I can have it on Xbox, Game Pass, on Stadia, I think, and on Amazon Luna, I think. Feud of the Doors seems to be like a fighting game, I assume. Oh no, it's a racing game, because there's cars. Anyway, something. I never played it. I like the anime style. Fury Unleashed. Never played it either, but it seems like a shooter, like kind of like a Metal Slug kind of game. So it seems to be fun to play. And that's it for F. Alright. We didn't do 30 minutes yet, so let's continue. Let's do G. G with GeForce the video game. A game coming from a Disney movie. Never played it, probably an action game from what I'm seeing here. And let's play with an hamster, that seems to be fun. Galgun Double Peace. I did do a game preview of this one. And I never put it on anywhere else on Facebook at the time. So I need to make sure that I actually put a new version of this. But I need to do a thumbnail and all that stuff. This game is interesting. let's say at least that. But basically your character, suddenly all the ladies are falling in love with your character, so you have to make sure that they don't fall in love with you. And it's kind of like a FPS, but kind of like a funny FPS. It's just fun. And you see those two ladies are basically like your neighbor's friend. At the time one of them left, but she's coming back now. And blah 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 blah, and obviously you're probably in love with one of the two, but whatever. It's just a funny game. I'll recommend it. It seems to be fun. Galaga Legends DX. Never did a video about it, but it's Galaga. So Galaga, it's a shoot them up, shoot them all. Well, they named that a shooter here, but it's a famous one. I don't know what's much to say else than that so far. Next is Garou Mark of the Wolves. So it's part of a Fatal Fury. Yeah, Fatal Fury. I just want to make sure that I'm not confunding with Final Fight. But it's a Fatal Fury game. It's a fighting game. And I'm very curious in playing it, actually. So hopefully we keep having it. I think it's available on other places though. Next is Gem Smashers. Have no clue about what it is, but it's a puzzle game. And maybe funny, who knows. Get Even, which is another Namco game, but I don't know this one much. Seems to be like a survival. Alright, next is Ghost of a Tale, which seems to be an action game. I think this one is also a VR game, like you can play it in VR if you want to. But in this version, I don't know if it's a VR game version or not. I know that it's on Amazon Luna as well. Ghostbusters! Okay, we have Ghostbusters Sanctum of Slime. But who we gonna call? Ghostbusters! Sorry for the stupidity here. But yeah, I never played the game. I don't know much about it. It's an Atari game. It's probably an action game. Maybe fun, who knows. But, you know, it's coming from a movie, so generally I don't know if they're that good of a game, you know. Alright, next is Diana Sisters Twisted Dreams Director's Cut. So Diana Sisters is very, very famous for being kind of like a copycat of Super Mario Bros. That was done on Amiga, CPC and all those stuff, with a soundtrack that is very, very interesting. I would recommend playing it, but this one obviously I don't know how it looks like, but it's probably a platformer game. I think that this one is available on Black Nut, if I'm not wrong. Alright, Go Puzzle food game. It seems to be a bunch of like puzzle games with multiple game mode. Go Sport Ski, a skiing simulation. Apparently you use the 6 axes to play it. Not a lot of great reviews. Alright, next is God Eater 2 Rage Burst. I need to play all those God Eaters eventually one of these days. But they have it, I know it's an action game. And God Eater Resurrection. So you can see that we had the 2 original games. They do not have Code Vein for, which is kind of like in the same universe, as far as I'm aware. Alright, and next there's God of War, the latest version of God of War, the renewal of the franchise. And here, it was on PlayStation Now, was removed, then added back, and we know for a fact that it will be on the PlayStation Plus. So this one, we have it, and it will be there. Next is the God of War 3 Remastered. So what's funny is that they didn't talk about any of the other God of War except this the new one and the Ragnarok that's gonna come out as a game trial apparently. So I don't know. I'm wondering what's happening with all the God of Wars. Hopefully they're still there. And this one is the remastered of the third game. God of War Ascension, which is another game within the franchise. There's lots of God of Wars because they tried to make it a PlayStation 2 plus a PSP game, so there's 2 versions of it depending on that. God of War HD, which I assume is the original God of War. God of War 2 HD. God of War Origins Collection, Chains of Olympus. And God of War Ghost of Sparta. So yeah, there's a lot of them. Hopefully they still have them. I'm sure they're gonna add them little by little if they don't put it straight off the bat. Because it's already there to begin with, so... You know, that would be a shame if they don't add them ever, you know. Alright, Goosebumps, the game. I have no clue what it is, but it's probably a game where you have to make sure that... I don't know. You have to make sure that you don't get hurt by the monsters. Grain Edges Medieval. No clue about what that game is. It seems to be an RTS, real-time strategy. Never played it. Gravity Crash, sorry. It seems to be a shooter game. Never played it either. Gravity Rush Remastered, which we know is going to be on the PlayStation Plus Premium. So this one we know that it's going to be there. I always wanted to play it. I never played it yet, but I really, really, really need to. I know that it's a game I think it's coming from the people that did Silent Hill, if I'm remembering correctly. Anyway, it's different than Silent Hill because it's more like a action game and platformer and puzzle, as far as I'm aware. And you can see Gravity Rush 2 is not showing, but it is there. I know that it is there because it's available on the PlayStation 4 app version of it. I hope that they're not going to do that mistake again, for they better have it as part of the PC version. Alright, let's talk about Greedfall. Greedfall is a game that I think I saw in multiple platforms. I don't know much about it. It seems to be more like an open world kind of game. We'll see. Greg Hastings Paintball 2. I guess it's an FPS, but with paintball. Yeah. By the way, I don't necessarily want to make fun of games like that, but it's just awkward to talk about it because sometimes I'm just wondering, like, is it really worth it to play a game like that? I don't know. But it's good to have it on cloud gaming. Alright, next is Grim Fandango Remastered. Great game. I never finished it though. I played it for a little bit. It seems fun. I got lost and I stopped. But I need to play it back one of these days. It's a great game. I definitely recommend people that love point-and-click adventure games to play this one. And yes, it's in 3D, so it's always weird to play a point-and-click adventure game in 3D at the time, especially when it came out. But that remastered version did a great job in making it a little bit more playable. Alright, Guacamelee is the next one. Guacamelee is a Metroidvania action platformer. It looks really cool. And it looks very, like, dynamic. But I never played it. Alright, now we have a Guilty Gears. Oh, there's a lot that got removed. But here is Guilty Gear Xrd. Xrd, I guess, Revelator. It's a fighting game. Kind of similar to the Blaze Blue franchise. And the Guilty Gear Xrd Sign. I don't know what's the difference between the two, to be fairly honest with you. I know that most of the Guilty Gear are available on... I think it's available on Luna and it's available also on Blacknet if you want to play it on cloud gaming. Alright, that's where we're gonna stop because now it's been nearly 30 minutes that we are doing that video. And we stop on the G. Soon we're gonna do the rest. So if you want to continue to follow, please follow. And see you all soon. Peace out. Bye.